10-year-old Lily Chen skipped down the sunlit hallway of her elementary school, her backpack bouncing against her spine with each step. The report card clutched in her small hand bore straight A's, a testament to her diligence despite the recent upheaval in her home. "Dad's going to be so proud," she whispered to herself, imagining his wide smile. Since her mother's death from cancer 2 years ago, Lily had become her father's world. Robert Chen, a respected cardiac surgeon at Memorial Hospital, had thrown himself into single parenthood with the same precision and dedication he brought to the operating room. Their modest suburban home became a sanctuary of shared grief and healing, filled with photos of the woman they both missed desperately. That was until Vanessa entered their lives. Vanessa Blackwood swept into their world like a hurricane dressed in designer clothes and expensive perfume. She'd met Robert at a hospital fundraiser 6 months ago, and within weeks, she'd transformed from his date to his wife and Lily's stepmother. "She's going to help us move forward," Robert had explained gently to Lily, brushing her long black hair away from her confused eyes. "Your mother would want us to be happy again." But happiness wasn't what Vanessa brought into their home. From the moment the wedding ring slipped onto her finger, the mask began to slip. When Robert wasn't around, Vanessa's emerald eyes would harden like stones, her melodic voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You're in my way, little girl," she'd hiss when Lily tried to join them for dinner or movie night. "Your father has a new family now." Lily tried telling her father about Vanessa's cruelty, but he'd just shake his head tiredly. "She's adjusting too, sweetheart. Give her time." Time only made things worse. Lily noticed the prescription bottles disappearing from her father's medical bag, the jewelry vanishing from Vanessa's collection, the whispered phone calls Vanessa made when she thought no one was listening. That afternoon, as Lily approached her house, something felt different. Police cars lined the street, their lights painting the neighborhood in alternating red and blue. Neighbors huddled in small groups on their lawns, watching as officers streamed in and out of the Chen residence. Lily broke into a run, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Dad? Dad," she screamed, trying to push past a uniformed officer. "Whoa there, young lady. You can't go in," he said, kneeling to her level. Through the gap between officers, Lily could see Vanessa sitting on the living room couch, mascara streaking down her face as she sobbed into a handkerchief. Her father wasn't anywhere to be seen. "That's her," Vanessa suddenly cried out, pointing a trembling finger at Lily. "That's the thief." The accusations came in a torrent: stolen medication from her father's medical bag, taken jewelry, vandalized property. Worst of all, Vanessa claimed to have discovered Lily's secret collection hidden in her teddy bear pills, jewels, and a threatening note directed at Vanessa. "She's been disturbed since her mother died," Vanessa wept to the sympathetic officers. "I've tried to love her, but she's been planning this for months. She wants me gone. The therapist said she might be dangerous. I have the reports." Falsified reports, Lily would later learn. But in that moment, as the officers approached her with gentle, concerned expressions, Lily felt her world collapse. "I didn't do it," she screamed, her voice breaking. "She's lying. Where's my dad? I want my dad." "Your father's been called to emergency surgery," an officer explained. "MS Blackwood will be your guardian until he returns." But Robert Chen wouldn't return that night. As Lily was escorted to a police car, she didn't know that her father's car had veered off the road on his way to the hospital, an accident investigators would later connect to tampered brakes. At 10 years old, Lily Chen entered the juvenile justice system alone, terrified, and entirely innocent, a pawn in a game orchestrated by a woman who had systematically dismantled her life with surgical precision. The Northern California Juvenile Correctional Facility loomed like a fortress against the cloudy sky, all concrete walls and razor wire. For Lily, it might as well have been another planet, a harsh, alien world governed by incomprehensible rules and populated by strangers who eyed her with either predatory interest or indifference. "Name?" barked the intake officer, a square-faced woman with close-cropped hair. "Lily Chen," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the institutional hum of fluorescent lights and distant shouts. "Speak up," the woman snapped, not looking up from her computer. "Lily Chen," she repeated, louder this time, fighting back tears. The woman's eyes flicked briefly to Lily's file, and something like pity crossed her face before vanishing beneath professional detachment. Theft, vandalism, and threats. That's quite a record for someone your age. I didn't do those things, Lily insisted, her small hands curling into fists. My stepmother. Save it for your counselor, the officer interrupted, stamping forms with practiced efficiency. You'll be in Block D. Juvenile non-violent offenders. The processing continued with mechanical precision fingerprints, photographs, medical examination, psychological evaluation. Each step stripped away another layer of Lily's identity, replacing it with an inmate number and institutional clothing, loose grey sweatpants and a sweatshirt that hung from her thin frame like a shroud. Where's my father? Lily asked repeatedly, receiving only vague responses about family situations and pending investigations. What no one told her was that Robert Chen lay in a coma, his car having plunged down an embankment on a rainy night. What no one knew was that Vanessa Blackwood had already begun the process of gaining power of attorney, accessing his accounts, and systematically erasing Lily from their shared life. Block D housed 20 girls between the ages of 10 and 14. Some were hardened beyond their years, products of broken homes and systemic neglect. Others, like Lily, seemed bewildered by their circumstances, still childlike in their responses to this harsh new reality. Lily's cellmate was a 13-year-old named Destiny Williams, a tall girl with intricate braids and watchful eyes. What are you in for? New girl Destiny asked that first night, studying Lily from the top bunk. I didn't do anything, Lily whispered, curled into herself on the lower bed. But Destiny snorted. Yeah, none of us did. But seriously, what they say you did. When Lily explained, Destiny whistled low. That's cold. Your stepmom set you up good. My dad will come, Lily insisted, clinging to this belief like a life raft. He'll fix everything once he knows. Destiny's expression softened. Hope so, little bit. Really do. But days stretched into weeks with no word from her father. The juvenile facility operated on rigid schedules: wake up at 6 a.m., breakfast at 6:30, classes from 8 to 2, supervised recreation, dinner, and lights out at 8:30. The educational program was remedial at best, nothing like the advanced classes Lily had excelled in before. The facility counselor, Ms. Ramirez, was the only adult who seemed to see Lily as more than just another delinquent case file. During their mandated weekly sessions, she would listen patiently as Lily maintained her innocence. I believe that you believe you're innocent, Lily Ms. Ramirez would say, her dark eyes kind but cautious. But the evidence was very compelling. The evidence that she planted Lily would insist, growing increasingly frustrated. Has anyone talked to my dad? Is he looking for me? Ms. Ramirez's hesitation spoke volumes. Your father's situation is complicated right now. I can't discuss the details. What Ms. Ramirez couldn't tell Lily, bound by confidentiality and instructions from Child Protective Services, was that Robert Chen had survived his accident but remained in a medically induced coma. Vanessa, as his wife, had taken control of his medical decisions and finances. The investigation into the circumstances surrounding Lily's case had stalled, buried beneath bureaucratic red tape and Vanessa's influential connections. Life inside the facility taught Lily harsh lessons in survival. She learned to keep her head down during conflicts, to trade desserts for protection, to shower quickly and guard her few possessions. Destiny became an unlikely protector, showing Lily the unwritten rules of their confined world. But you're too soft for this place, Destiny told her bluntly one day as they folded laundry during work detail. You gotta toughen up or they'll eat you alive. I shouldn't have to be tough, Lily responded, angrily wiping away tears. I should be home with my dad. Destiny sighed. Should don't mean nothing in here, little bit. It's all about his. At night, Lily would pull out her single treasured possession, a photograph of her mother, father, and herself at the beach, taken the summer before her mother's diagnosis. She'd managed to keep it hidden during intake, and it remained her talisman, a reminder of the life that had been stolen from her. I'll get back to you, Dad, she would whisper to the smiling face in the picture. I promise. 3 months into her incarceration, Lily's father still hadn't visited, called, or written. The other girls had begun giving her pitying looks, recognizing the signs of abandonment they knew all too well. Sometimes it's easier if you just accept it, counseled a 14-year-old named Tasha, who'd been in and out of the system since age 8. People on the outside, they move on without us. But Lily refused to believe her father had forgotten her. Something was wrong deeply, terribly wrong, and the growing knot of dread in her stomach told her that Vanessa was at the center of it all. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Ms. Ramirez called Lily into her office outside of their regular schedule. Her expression was grave. "Lily, I have some difficult news," she began, gesturing for Lily to sit. "It's about your father. Is he dead?" Lily blurted out, her face draining of color as she perched on the edge of the chair in Ms. Ramirez's office. The counselor shook her head quickly. No, I'm sorry to frighten you. Your father is alive, but he's been in the hospital. He was in a car accident the night you were brought here, and he's been in a coma." The revelation hit Lily like a physical blow. For 3 months, she'd been constructing elaborate scenarios explaining her father's absence, anger, disappointment, even belief in her guilt, but never this. Never that he'd been lying unconscious, unreachable, while she languished behind walls and wire. "Who's taking care of him?" she asked, already knowing and dreading the answer. "Your stepmother has medical power of attorney." Ms. Ramirez confirmed gently. "She's making his healthcare decisions." Lily's mind raced, connecting dots with a clarity that surprised even her. She did this. She put him in the hospital, just like she put me in here. Ms. Ramirez leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Lily, that's a very serious accusation." "It's the truth," Lily insisted, her voice rising. "First she framed me, and then she hurt my dad. She wants his money, his house, everything." The counselor sighed, her professional demeanor slipping to reveal genuine concern. "There have been questions about your case. Inconsistencies in the evidence. I've been speaking with a detective who specializes in family cases. He's looking into some aspects of the charges against you." Hope flared in Lily's chest for the first time in months. "Someone believes me." "Let's say there are concerns." Ms. Ramirez hedged. "Detective Monroe will be visiting tomorrow to speak with you directly. Until then, please keep this conversation between us." That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the underside of Destiny's bunk, her mind whirling with possibilities. When she finally did share the news with her cellmate, Destiny's reaction surprised her. "My cousin Layla works as an aide at Memorial Hospital," Destiny revealed, hanging upside down from the top bunk to whisper. "She's been there 3 years. If your dad's there, she might be able to check on him." "You'd do that for me?" Lily asked, amazed. Destiny shrugged, trying to seem nonchalant despite the risks such communication posed. "You're the only one in here who helps me with math. Consider it payback." Detective James Monroe arrived the following afternoon, a tall black man with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a methodical way of speaking that put Lily instantly at ease. Unlike the officers who'd arrested her, he listened without interruption as she recounted everything: Vanessa's behavior before the arrest, the missing items that had mysteriously reappeared among Lily's possessions, her father's sudden accident. "You're very observant, Lily," he noted, reviewing his notes. "Most kids your age wouldn't have picked up on these patterns." "My mum was a research scientist," Lily explained, a brief smile crossing her face at the memory. "She always said that answers hide in patterns. You just have to know how to look." Detective Monroe nodded appreciatively. "Smart woman, your mother. Now, I need to ask, did you ever see your stepmother take anything? The medications, the jewelry, anything concrete?" Lily's face fell. "No, she was always careful. But what about other people? Friends of your father who might have noticed something off?" Lily considered this. "Dr. Mitchell. He's my dad's best friend from medical school. He never liked Vanessa. Said she reminded him of..." She paused, trying to remember the exact words, "those black widow spiders that eat their mates." Detective Monroe's eyebrows rose. "Interesting comparison. Do you know how to reach this Dr. Mitchell?" "He works at the same hospital as my dad. They have lunch every Thursday." Lily's voice quavered. "At least they used to." As the detective prepared to leave, he hesitated, then reached into his pocket. "This isn't exactly by the book, but I thought you might want to see this." He slid a photograph across the table, a recent image of her father in a hospital bed, connected to machines but clearly alive. Lily's fingers trembled as she touched the image. "Is he getting better?" "The doctors are cautiously optimistic," Detective Monroe said carefully. "His condition has been fluctuating in unusual ways. Some days better, some worse, with no clear medical explanation." The implication hung in the air between them. Lily voiced it. You think she's doing something to him in the hospital. Detective Monroe reclaimed the photo, his expression grave. I didn't say that. But we're watching the situation closely now. 2 days later, Destiny returned from a phone call with news. My cousin saw your dad. Says there's always flowers in his room, fancy ones, and some lady dressed like she's going to a fashion show visits every evening like clockwork. Stays about an hour. That's Vanessa, Lily confirmed. But yeah, well, Layla says the nurses don't like her. Says your dad's readings go crazy sometimes after she visits. They've started keeping extra eyes on his room. The information was both terrifying and validating. Lily had been right all along. Vanessa was dangerous, but knowing the truth and proving it were entirely different matters. Help arrived from an unexpected quarter the following week. Dr. Eleanor Mitchell, the wife of her father's best friend, requested visitation rights. As a family connection, a petite woman with silver-streaked dark hair and surgical precision in her movements, she embraced Lily with genuine warmth. James and I never believed you did those things, she said firmly, referring to her husband. The Lily we know wouldn't hurt a fly. Is my dad really getting better? Lily asked anxiously. Dr. Mitchell's hesitation spoke volumes. His case has raised some concerns among the medical staff. James has been reviewing his charts. The patterns don't make sense. Improvement followed by sudden setbacks that have no clear medical cause. It's her, Lily whispered. It has to be. Dr. Mitchell squeezed her hand. We're working with Detective Monroe. James has arranged to be your father's attending physician from now on. We're documenting everything. But what about me? Lily asked, the unfairness of her situation crashing down anew. Even if you prove she hurt my dad, I'm still stuck in here for things I didn't do. One battle at a time, sweetheart, Dr. Mitchell counseled. First we protect your father and gather evidence against Vanessa. Then we get you home where you belong. As Dr. Mitchell prepared to leave, she pressed something into Lily's palm, a small digital voice recorder disguised as a tube of lip balm. Detective Monroe thought you might remember conversations, phone calls, anything that could help build the case. If you do, record it here. For the first time since her arrest, Lily felt a spark of agency, of power over her own fate. She wasn't just a victim anymore, she was part of the team, working to expose Vanessa's crimes. That night, as a spring storm lashed rain against the facility windows, Lily confided everything to Destiny. Sounds like some movie stuff, Destiny observed, impressed despite herself. Secret recordings, corrupt stepmom, coma patient dad. Except it's my life, Lily responded softly. And I don't know how this movie ends. Destiny swung down from her bunk, landing with practiced grace on the concrete floor. Then we better make sure it ends with the bad guy getting what she deserves. With those words, an unlikely alliance was cemented, a bond that would prove instrumental in the justice that was to come. 6 months into Lily's incarceration, the seasons had changed twice outside the juvenile facility's walls. Inside, Lily had changed too, growing taller, thinner, her childish softness replaced by watchful wariness. Her once perfect grades had slipped in the facility's limited educational program, but she'd developed other skills, patience, observation, and a steely determination that surprised even her. The investigation into Vanessa proceeded with maddening slowness. Detective Monroe visited bi-weekly, bringing updates that seemed insignificant in isolation but were gradually forming a damning pattern. We've confirmed that the handwriting on the threatening note doesn't match yours, he reported during one such visit. And the medication found in your possession wasn't from your father's current prescription batch, it was from samples that went missing from the hospital 3 months earlier. That proves I didn't take them, Lily insisted. It supports your story, Monroe corrected gently. But without direct evidence linking Vanessa to the planted items, we're still building circumstantial case. But Dr. Eleanor Mitchell's visits provided updates on her father's condition. Robert Chen had regained consciousness briefly, only to slip back into unconsciousness after what the hospital staff euphemistically called an episode. Vanessa's visits had become less frequent as she focused on liquidating Robert's assets, selling his medical practice, placing their home on the market. She's rushing, Dr. Mitchell observed grimly. She knows we're watching. James has implemented a new security protocol for your father's care. Only approved medical personnel can administer anything, and there are cameras in his room now. She'll find another way to hurt him, Lily insisted, the recorder clutched in her palm. She always does. The breaking point came on a sweltering July afternoon. Lily was mopping the common room floor during work detail when a new girl arrived at the facility, Jackie Zhang, a 12-year-old with defiant eyes and a split lip from a recent fight. During recreation period, Jackie approached Lily in the exercise yard. "You're Chen, right? Lily Chen." Lily nodded cautiously, alert to potential trouble from the newcomer. "My mom's a nurse at Memorial," Jackie said without preamble. "She knows your stepmom, says she's been asking about drugs that don't show up in toxicology screens." But Lily's blood ran cold. "When?" "Last week. Mum thought it was weird, especially after all the gossip about your dad's case. She reported it to hospital security. But the information sent Lily into a panic. If Vanessa was researching untraceable drugs, Robert Chen was in imminent danger. She had to warn someone now. Breaking every facility rule, Lily slipped away from the recreation group and sprinted toward the administrative offices. MS was on the phone when Lily burst in, breathless and frantic. "She's going to kill him," Lily gasped. "My stepmom, she's planning to poison my dad with something that won't show up in tests. You have to call Detective Monroe right now." MS. Ramirez's eyes widened at both the intrusion and the information. "Lily, you can't be in here without." "Please," Lily begged, tears streaming down her face. "My dad will die if you don't make this call." Whether it was the desperation in Lily's voice or the months of building suspicion, MS. Ramirez made a split-second decision. She picked up her phone and dialed Monroe's direct line, quickly relaying Lily's information. What followed was a blur of activity. Monroe mobilized immediately, coordinating with hospital security. MS. Ramirez broke protocol to keep Lily informed as reports filtered in throughout the afternoon and evening. At 7:42 p.m., the news arrived Vanessa Blackwood had been apprehended in Robert Chen's hospital room, a syringe of insulin in her purse, a substance that, administered to a non-diabetic patient, would have caused a fatal drop in blood sugar that could appear as natural complications. "They got her," MS. Ramirez announced, her professional composure cracking to reveal genuine relief. "Your father is safe, Lily. Detective Monroe says they have her on attempted murder charges." Lily collapsed into a chair, emotion overwhelming her small frame. Months of fear, anger, and desperate hope poured out in heaving sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her physical body. "What happens now?" she managed to ask between gulping breaths. "Now, MS. Ramirez said, placing a tentative hand on Lily's shoulder, "we start the process of reviewing your case. With Vanessa facing serious criminal charges, the prosecutor's office will be taking another look at the evidence against you." That night, for the first time in 6 months, Lily slept without nightmares. In the adjacent bunk, Destiny kept silent vigil, watching over her cellmate with fierce protectiveness, understanding better than most how fragile hope could be when justice had been so long denied. The wheels of justice, notorious for their glacial pace, seemed to find unexpected speed in the wake of Vanessa Blackwood's arrest. Within days, the woman who had orchestrated the destruction of the Chen family found herself facing multiple felony charges: attempted murder, fraud, evidence tampering, and filing false police reports. Vanessa's carefully constructed facade crumbled under scrutiny. Former friends and associates came forward with accounts of inconsistencies, suspicious behaviors, and outright lies. Financial records revealed a pattern of extravagant spending and mounting debt that predated her marriage to Robert, a desperate situation that made a wealthy doctor an attractive solution to her problems. Most damning were the discoveries at the storage unit Vanessa had rented under her maiden name. Inside, investigators found the missing jewelry she'd claimed Lily had stolen, prescription medications matching those found in Lily's possession, and a journal detailing her plans with clinical precision. She documented everything Detective Monroe explained during a visit to the juvenile facility, where Lily remained while her case underwent review. It's almost as if she wanted to preserve the brilliance of her plan. Classic narcissistic behavior, she couldn't bear the thought of no one knowing how clever she'd been. For Lily, the validation of her innocence brought complicated emotions, relief mingled with renewed grief for all she'd lost, rage at the injustice she'd endured, and anxiety about what would come next. Her father remained hospitalized, slowly recovering from both his injuries and the systematic poisoning Vanessa had administered during her hospital visits. "Will they let me go home now?" Lily asked MS. Ramirez during one of their sessions, her voice small but hopeful. The counselor's expression was cautiously optimistic. The district attorney has filed a motion to vacate all charges against you. There's a hearing scheduled for next week. Given the overwhelming evidence of your stepmother's guilt, I believe the judge will rule in your favor. But where will I go? Lily pressed. My dad can't take care of me yet. It was a question that highlighted the cruel aftermath of false accusations. Even with her name cleared, Lily's life had been fundamentally altered. Their house had been sold, her belongings dispersed, her school enrollment terminated. The infrastructure of her existence had been dismantled piece by piece. The answer came from Dr. Eleanor and James Mitchell, who petitioned for temporary guardianship while Robert recovered. We have the guest room all ready for you, Dr. Eleanor told Lily during her final visit to the facility. James has already enrolled you in the middle school near our house. It's got an excellent science program just like your mother would have wanted. On a clear September morning, exactly 7 months after her arrest, Lily Chen walked out of the Northern California Juvenile Correctional Facility a free girl. Detective Monroe and the Mitchells waited by a car decorated with welcome home streamers, while Ms. Ramirez stood at the entrance, watching with bittersweet pride. Remember what we talked about, the counselor said, embracing Lily one last time. What happened here wasn't fair, but it doesn't define who you are or who you'll become. Lily nodded, blinking back tears. I know, and I'll still come to group therapy, like we discussed. Good girl, Ms. Ramirez smiled. Some of your experiences will take time to process. Be patient with yourself. As Lily prepared to leave, a familiar voice called out, Yo, little bit, wait up. Destiny Williams jogged across the yard, special permission granted for this goodbye. The girls embraced fiercely. Don't forget about us in here, Destiny whispered. Never, Lily promised. I'm going to write to you every week. And when I become a lawyer, I'm coming back to help kids like us. Destiny grinned. Criminal justice reform, huh? Ambitious. I learned from the best, Lily responded, wiping away tears. The drive to Memorial Hospital was filled with gentle conversation as the Mitchells carefully navigated Lily's re-entry into the world. They explained that her father had been moved to a rehabilitation facility where he was making steady progress speaking again, regaining motor function, and most importantly, retaining his memories of Lily and their life before Vanessa. He asks about you every day, Dr. Eleanor shared. The nurses put your picture right by his bed. When they arrived at the rehabilitation center, Lily hesitated at her father's door, suddenly overwhelmed by the moment she'd imagined countless times during her incarceration. What if he's different, she whispered anxiously. He is different, Dr. Mitchell acknowledged honestly. And so are you. But you're still father and daughter. That hasn't changed. Robert Chen sat in a wheelchair by the window, thinner and grayer than Lily remembered, but unmistakably her father. When he turned and saw her, his face transformed, joy erasing months of pain and struggle in an instant. My Lily, he breathed, opening his arms. She ran to him then, 7 months of separation collapsing into a single heartbeat as she carefully embraced him, mindful of the tubes and monitors still attached to his recovering body. I knew you'd never believe I did those things, she sobbed into his shoulder. I knew you'd never forget me. Never, he vowed, his voice hoarse from disuse but firm with conviction. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have protected you better. We protected each other, Lily corrected, wiping away tears. And we're going to keep doing that. The Mitchells are helping until you're better, and then we'll find a new home. Just us. Robert nodded, determination sharpening his gaze. Just us. And this time, I'll listen better. The Berkeley courtroom buzzed with quiet conversation as attorneys organized papers and spectators settled into their seats. 12-year-old Lily Chen, now a poised 7th grader with a passion for science and law, sat in the front row beside her father. Robert Chen had made a remarkable recovery, though he still walked with a cane and tired more easily than before his injuries. Today marked the conclusion of United States v. Blackwood, the federal case against Vanessa that had followed her state convictions. After multiple delays and legal maneuvers, justice was finally reaching its conclusion. All rise, called the bailiff, and the courtroom fell silent. As the judge delivered Vanessa's sentence, 27 years, Without possibility of parole, Lily felt not triumph but a profound sense of closure. The woman who had stolen nearly a year of her childhood and forever altered her family's trajectory would face consequences proportionate to her crimes. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered around Lily and her father, drawn by the dramatic story of false accusations, attempted murder, and a child's remarkable resilience. "Lily, how does it feel to see your former stepmother sentenced today?" called one journalist. Robert stepped forward protectively, but Lily gently touched his arm. "It's okay, Dad, I can answer." Facing the cameras with composure beyond her years, Lily spoke clearly. "Today isn't about Vanessa. It's about acknowledging that the justice system can make mistakes, but it can also correct them. I spent 7 months incarcerated for crimes I didn't commit. That experience showed me how many other kids might be in similar situations without the resources or support I eventually received." She gestured to where Destiny Williams stood with her mother, released 6 months earlier after her case was reviewed as part of a broader juvenile justice reform initiative sparked partly by Lily's widely publicized story. "My friend Destiny and I are working with the Innocence Project now," Lily continued. "We're telling our stories to help change how juvenile cases are handled. Every child deserves to be presumed innocent, to have evidence properly evaluated, and to have an advocate who truly listens." As the crowd dispersed, Lily embraced Destiny warmly. Their unlikely friendship had blossomed beyond the facility walls, strengthened by shared experience and mutual respect. "Proud of you," little bit Destiny grinned, using the nickname that had once been necessary for survival but now served as a term of endearment. "You totally handled those reporters." "Couldn't have done it without you," Lily responded sincerely. "You taught me how to be strong when everything seemed hopeless." That evening, the Chens hosted a small gathering at their new home, a modest but cheerful house near the university, where Robert had taken a teaching position after deciding that the physical demands of surgery were no longer compatible with his recovery. The living room filled with the people who had formed Lily's support system: the Mitchells, Detective Monroe and his family, MS, Ramirez, and several friends from Lily's new school. Conspicuously present was a framed photograph of Lily's mother, placed prominently on the mantel, a reminder that even those no longer physically present remained part of their story. As Robert prepared to offer a toast, the doorbell rang. Lily answered to find a smartly dressed woman with a portfolio and a kind smile. "MS Chen? I'm Andrea Livingston from Berkeley Publishing. I received your letter about your memoir project." Lily's eyes widened as she ushered the editor inside. What had begun as a therapeutic exercise journaling her experiences in juvenile detention had evolved into something more ambitious: a book aimed at middle-grade readers that addressed justice, resilience, and finding one's voice in a system designed to silence. "I believe your story needs to be told, MS," Livingston explained as the gathering listened intently, "particularly with your focus on reform and healing rather than revenge. It's a perspective we rarely hear, especially from someone your age." Later, as stars appeared in the clear night sky, Lily and her father sat on their back porch swing, shoulders touching companionably as they contemplated the journey behind them and the road ahead. "Mum would be so proud of you,"